Welcome to the Live Life Well podcast for busy women. As a busy mum myself, I understand how hard it can be to look after ourselves. But hopefully this is a space for you to take time out, find connection, and get some simple takeaways to live life well, mind, body and soul. Let's jump in. Hi and welcome to the Live Life Well podcast with myself, your host, Joanne Bibby from Live Life Well. And this is an invitation for you to slow down in your busy schedule and take some time to take care of you, because you are worthy of that. And we have some great guests to help us do that, to give us some takeaways that we can apply to our lives in really simple ways that can help improve our well-being. We've got something a little bit different for you today. We have Rachel Smith joining us from Clutter is the Enemy. And Rachel, you help people with decluttering, interior design and home staging. And you just help us feel a bit less overwhelmed with just the stuff around us. So I think we all need you in our lives. But what I really love about you, Rachel, we've had some great chats already. I love that you've got a real focus on well-being. That's a big part of what you do. It's not just about this stuff and how your house looks, it's how it makes you feel, isn't it? So I'm so excited to have you on. I think it's going to be a really important conversation. I can't wait to hear what you have to share. I need you in my life. So Rachel, do you want to just say hi and just tell us how you got into this sort of this work?
Yep. So it was a bit of a classic COVID story. I got made redundant during COVID, and it was one of those, do I want to jump back onto the corporate hamster wheel, or do I want to do something that I actually really feel passionate about? And it was my lovely, long-suffering, supportive husband who said, this is your now or never moment. Take it. Do something with houses, was what he said. So it was like, because I've always had an interest in houses. I've always been the one that people used to come to and they said, oh, we need to redecorate, we're not quite sure what to do. I've done a lot in my own house, and when the kids were little, I studied interior design as sort of a hobby, something for me. And I just absolutely loved it, and I just thought, oh, this is something that really fills me with joy. What can I do about it? How can I turn this into a business? And so it started off where I was staging houses, and it turns out it was houses that weren't selling. And I realized after I'd done a few of them that they weren't selling because the people in them, the family unit had broken down. And so it was one of those things where they'd fallen out of love with each other and out of love with the house. And anybody coming to view it could feel the negative energy. And it's not something that people could have put their finger on, but that was why. And when I realized that actually I could change that negative energy into positive energy and I could help the people move on, that was kind of the pivotal moment in the business when I realized that actually it's not about the spaces, it's about the people. And then whilst I was doing that, I did some interior design work, but then it came from people who were stuck or overwhelmed, or there were things in the houses that were causing them anxiety. And I thought, oh, again, I can help unstick these people and help make their spaces not only look nicer, but function better and therefore feel better. And in some instances, actually change the way that they interacted with each other in that family unit, which I was like, oh, this is a thing. And actually the decluttering came last. When I called my business Clutter is the Enemy, I knew that the clutter that what I was talking about was in people's heads, and it was mental clutter. And that's caused by so many different things. So helping people declutter, again, it wasn't really about the things in the space. It was how I could remove those things in the space to then give people more headspace to then help them move on with their lives.
Amazing. It sounds like it's real hard work that you do, and you just really found your groove. And that's so important, to find that thing we're passionate about. And if we can get to do it for a living, it's a total bonus, isn't it? And like that impact you can have on people and that support to move forward.
And it's a very lucky position to be in when what you do aligns with all your core values, which is something that you just don't think about until you're kind of in your 40s.
Yes.
I think, you just go through life and you're going through this corporate life because that's what you're told that you should do. And I always felt like I was a bit of a square peg in a round hole. And I just didn't know why. And I always sort of liked my jobs, but I never loved them. And, I was always good at them, but it wasn't anything that just lit a fire in me. And it was only when I left the corporate world and started doing this that I realized that actually it is possible to do things that make you happy and that make other people happy. And that it's so amazing to be able to do that.
Yes, I think there's a whole other podcast there, finding your purpose and how that affects your well-being. But absolutely, I think we both feel really blessed to get to do what we love as our jobs. And if you can do that, then find a way to do that, because that's what's going to bring you life and joy, isn't it? And also have that impact on others. So we are very lucky. So we're going to be talking about our space as an extension of our well-being today, and how we can beat the overwhelm and start to take back control of that. But before we get into all of that good stuff, I'd love to hear what living life well means to you, Rachel. How do you take care of you as you help others?
Well, I made a pact with myself this year. Unfortunately, I went through quite a lot of loss in the last year. And this year I said to myself, I'm just going to fill my house with love and laughter. And so that is what I'm trying to do at any given opportunity. Just have people, have life in the house, make food, entertain people, and just bring people together, because that's what's important. The people in your life are the ones that are important. And also surround yourself with people who lift you up instead of push you down. Again, since running my own business, I have found myself, in networking situations and just surrounded by like-minded people and people whose energy matches mine. And, I've kind of made it my purpose when I go to networking meetings to just go on people's energies and not sort of waste my time with people who I know are not my people. And that's no disrespect to any of those people, but I just know that my time is going to be better spent if I know intuitively that somebody is my kind of person. Then I'm just going to go and talk to that person, and it works. It's just a really nice way to do networking, because you just hone in on like certain people, and it's like, yeah, I'm going to talk to you, and I'm going to talk to you, and I'm going to talk to you, and that's it. I'm not bothered about talking to anybody else. So just, the good energy that is in the world, and especially the female energy, and people who understand without you having to say anything. They just, and I think it's again, I talked about hitting your 40s. I think it is a really pivotal moment, and it's no surprise to me that a lot of my clients are women in their 40s because you kind of get to this point where you're like, on one half, you're like, oh, I'm more confident in myself because, you may or may not have had kids, held a relationship together. And you think, right, if I've got this far and I've kept people alive, I can do anything. And then on the other half, you're just like, oh, but actually, who am I? And, you've got to the stage in your life where you've put everybody else first and you've looked after everybody else, and you've forgotten to look after yourself. And actually, you've forgotten to ask yourself those questions of who am I and what makes me happy. And one of the best things that any of my clients has said to me, we totally redecorated her lounge because she was in this situation where she was in her 40s. She got 2 almost teenage boys, and she bought a beige house because it was new and it was easy. She didn't have to do anything with it. And then 14 years later, she's still in this beige house and it needs things doing to it. And she's like, but I don't know what to do because I don't know who I am. And so I helped her work out who she was and what colours made her happy, and, redesigned rooms, knocked walls down, put walls in. And she said to me, you have helped me remember who I am. And that for me was like the best thing that anybody could ever say to me, because that's life-changing stuff. And we'd actually, by just rearranging some furniture, we'd helped the family interact in a different way. And I think people don't realize the effect that your home actually has on your well-being, because we get so used to things just as they are, that we don't really question the why. And as our families evolve and as they grow and as they maybe separate and then reintegrate with other families, you know, things change and emotions change and the energy changes and everything changes. But if your house stays the same, then you find you have this disconnect between the people and the home. And in certain situations, then your home can start controlling you, which is, you know, the most absurd notion ever, because how can a pile of bricks and mortar start controlling humans? But if you relinquish your control, if because you're too busy, you don't have the time, the energy, the motivation, you know, all of those things, and you stop making changes, then it kind of calcifies and it can no longer serve you, and it isn't contributing to help you be the best version of yourself. But if you do it the right way, and if you invest your time and your energy, and it doesn't need to be lots of money either, because small changes can make a massive difference. But if you just put that time and energy into your home, it will reflect it back at you, and it will help you to be the best version of yourself. And this is kind of the message that I'm trying to get across to people, that really small changes can make a massive difference to how you feel in your space.
Yes, it's a good investment. Your time and money spent at home
It's
will
investing
pay
in
you back.
yourself. Yeah.
I love what you're saying there, though, about getting to our kind of age. Like, I'm in my approaching my mid-40s, and I totally get that sort of tension between knowing yourself better and realizing you don't have an infinite amount of time left on the planet, and you don't want to waste it on the people and things that don't serve you and don't light you up. But how we can reach a point also of becoming a bit stuck and overwhelmed, because we've just collected things through our life, haven't we? We've collected stuff, physical stuff, but we've also collected maybe habits that don't serve us, mindsets that don't serve us. So I can see that tension of wanting to know yourself better, use your time well, make a difference. But then, like, how do I do that when I've got all this stuff? So, and that's what you can help people with, the physical stuff. But I love what you said right at the start about how it's not really about the stuff. It's the clutter in our minds that leads to the clutter in our homes. So, yeah, like, let's talk about that sort of how we reach that point of overwhelm. You know, if you're listening, you're like, that's me. I've just got rooms in my house that I just don't know what to do with, or I've got this stuff that has an emotional connection, but it's a connection to my past that I maybe don't really want around, but it's got, you know, sentimental value. Like, yeah, let's just get stuck into all those things. How do we reach that point? We've spoken about it a little bit, but is that something you come across a lot?
Yes, every day.
Yes, I can imagine.
Every day, because we're all in the same situation. You know, we live in a materialistic society. We just are told to consume, 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 but we're not taught how to get rid of stuff. And, you know, there is still that hangover from the post-war generation of, you know, make, do, amending, and you know, there is this whole new sort of upcycling, recycling thing, which is amazing. But that kind of, people fall into lots of different traps. And it's the, yes, I'm going to do that, but then they never get around to it. So we end up with loads of projects that in our head, you know, we're going to do this, and we're either going to use it again, or we're going to sell it, and we're going to do this. And, you know, we're going to put all our clothes on Vinted, and we're going to make lots of money, and we're going to sell stuff on eBay, and and then it doesn't happen, and you just end up with bags and boxes of stuff just all over the place, and you're like, and then you just feel really disappointed with yourself because you haven't done it. And it's kind of, the whole decluttering thing is an absolute process. It's a journey. And I see myself as like a guide on this journey, like a Sherpa, but instead of carrying your stuff, I'm throwing it off the mountain. Because, you know, we're not here to carry stuff. We're carrying enough emotion, and that takes up all our headspace. And particularly if you are a woman in your 30s, 40s, 50s, you are caring for a lot of people. You know, we are the sandwich generation where we're looking after kids. We may have had kids when we're a bit older. We've got parents who are living longer and we're looking after them. And, you know, we don't have headspace. We're all juggling a gazillion plates. And the one that I think gets dropped the most is the house, because you don't have the time, the energy, the motivation, the money, the all of those things. And so it's helping people really just get out of this hole that they're in. And it ends up really affecting people when they're surrounded by stuff that they know shouldn't be there. And there's kind of two levels. There's the surface clutter, the stuff that you can see that is just the everyday. And then there's what I call the cupboard demons, which are hiding. And they're hiding in the cupboards, in the drawers. And you know they're there, but they just, sorry, my light's flickering. You know they're there, but you either don't want to face them head on, or you just don't know what to do with them. And a lot of the things that we hold on to, we're just telling ourselves stories about. All this sort of, oh, I'm emotionally attached to this, I'm emotionally attached to that. It's not really that thing that you're attached to. And it's not that thing that represents your relationship with that person, whoever it may be. It's just things that we tell ourselves that, oh, I can't get rid of that because. And quite often we just don't know what to do with it. And we have that emotional guilt, either, you know, something that's been given to us by our parents because they didn't want it in their house, but they've quite happily given it to you to have in your house. And you think, oh, I can't get rid of it because they'll notice when they come round. And basically, you know, Marie Kondo is right when she says you should have nothing in your house if it doesn't spark joy. So you should, if you've got something in your house that's neither useful nor lovely, then bye-bye. And people, and people say to me quite often, I'll go to somebody and say, oh, I'm not very good at getting rid of things. I can't get rid of things. And it's like, yes, they can. They just are not giving themselves permission to. So the whole thing that I do is giving people permission to give themselves permission to let stuff go.
That's so good. And I think seeing it as a journey, not as something you just have to do in one, you know, you don't have to like sort everything, because that would just put you off even starting, wouldn't it? But to know that it's a process, and to have people like you to come alongside, because it's actually really hard to make changes by ourselves. We're kind of not meant to. We're meant to do things in community and connection, and the science proves when you have accountability and support, it's so much easier. So just if you're listening, know you're not alone in this, and there's people that like Rachel that can help, which is really exciting and gives us a bit of hope. But you talked about,
and
sorry,
there's kind of just two ways of looking at it. Like I said, there's the surface clutter, which if you're after a quick win and you just want to make yourself feel better, then, you know, tidy the bathroom, you know, do the easy bits, the things that you can see. But just know that that is just scratching the surface, and that actually, if you want to genuinely feel better in yourself and have more headspace and more room to deal with the emotional stuff that you're dealing with, then you need to do the deeper work. And it is drawers and cupboards, and it's the things that nobody really wants to do, because let's face it, it's boring. But that is where the real stuff that is the problem is hiding. And so that's where you need to go. It's like any kind of counselling, therapy, anything. You can scratch the surface, and at a very shallow level you can deal with things. But until you've like basically emptied the drawers and the cupboards, then you know the real work has not been done.
Yep, got to tackle those demons in every area. They're always there. You know they're there. You can kid yourself on. They're not when you're not looking at them, but they're always like whispering away, aren't they?
That's it. And your subconscious is completely aware. You know, your subconscious knows that there's stuff on top of the wardrobe, there's stuff under the bed, and there's stuff in the cupboards. And whilst ever your conscious mind is not dealing with it, your subconscious definitely is.
Definitely. And yeah, we spoke about how that kind of then impacts us. You sort of touched on it earlier when you mentioned how we can become disappointed with ourselves for not getting on top of it, and almost like that shame, isn't it? We often feel as women when we
Yeah,
just don't think we're doing as well as we should. We put all that pressure on ourselves, don't we? But I think that's totally normal to feel like that. How else does it affect our kind of day-to-day well-being? I mean, we might think, oh, it's just stuff. It doesn't affect my health or my mental health, but actually, I know personally, I think we all know deep down it has a massive effect. I know even just talking
it
about this is
does.
making me feel a bit anxious in my chest. I'm thinking about
Yeah,
the mess in my children's room, the stuff under the bed, and
yeah,
I know as someone who I'm pretty sure I have ADHD, if and I am naturally quite messy, but also the mess just makes me feel unwell. Like I can't think straight. You're just constantly seeing it, aren't you? That mental load we have as women, walking about your house, like, oh, I've got to do that. I've got to tidy that. Oh, look at that mess. Oh my goodness. Where do I start? I don't know where to start. I can't even
yeah.
begin. So what
And
toll does
they're the
that have?
kind of things that I call microaggressions, because they're
Mm.
just the little things that every day you're seeing and that is stressing you out.
Oh my goodness, yes.
And, we know that, cortisol levels are
Mm.
caused by things like this, and where there's more clutter, more cortisol, which does affect your body. It's not just your mind, it is your
Mhm.
body. It does have a physical impact. Um, and it can cause anxiety, it can cause depression. And because it's a build up, it's a very slow build up. It starts with kind of bad habits, as you mentioned earlier, until you get to this point of overwhelm. And everybody always says to me, well, how, as soon as you've like left somebody, do they not just go back to how they were before? And I say, well, no, because actually they're not the same person now as they were when all of this
Mm.
started, because the clutter is always the symptom, never the cause. And
Good.
so there's a reason why people get into these situations. And it's usually some kind of life-changing event. It could be a divorce, it could be somebody's died, just anything that's had an impact, poor mental health, problems at work, just generally life issues that we're all going through and things that are just getting worse. And then you couple that with this insta perfect society that we're living in, and everybody's thinking that everybody else's houses are perfect. And even though we know logically that that's not true and it's not possible, there's still that we're still fed all these images from Pinterest and Instagram every day where everybody's like, oh, this is what you should be living like. And the word should is
Oh,
just our worst enemy, isn't
yes.
it? And our own mothers-in-law, sometimes children, can be really, really critical, and we take
Mm.
that to heart and we think that it's all on us. But actually in a house there are usually several people that are living there, and once the decluttering process has been done, I encourage all family members to speak to each other about how they deal with mess and clutter. Because again, we all think that we know each other, but you can know somebody quite well, but every day people's mental health journey changes. And there's some days where you can walk into a room and it can be a bit of a mess and you can just walk past it and be fine because you know that it will get tidied and it's not a problem. And then the next day, because of something that might have happened to you, or because of your hormones that day, or whatever it is that you're going through, that mess, it starts to cause your anxiety. And that's in the space of a day. So I think it's important that we have conversations with our nearest and dearest, and definitely the people that we share our spaces with, around how these things make you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'll have people say to me all the time, what do you do if you've got one person in a relationship who's really messy and another person who's really tidy? What do you do? And I say, well, you need to talk to each other on that level, because these are conversations that we forget to have.
Yeah.
And it's just, you need to know how what you're doing makes that other person feel. And when you do, then that's when compromise happens. This happened to me during lockdown, and I am not an anxious person in any way, shape, or form. But because we were all living on top of each other, and because everybody was working from home, homeschooling, doing everything in the same spaces, it ended up where my kitchen was just a mess permanently, and I was trying to run my business and look after the kids, and I felt like I couldn't start my day until all the mess was cleared. And that made me feel resentful, because I'm like, well, why should it be me doing it? And why is it my day that has to start, an hour later than everybody else's? And I carried this resentment for a few days. And then I thought, no, this is ridiculous. And I had the conversation with my husband, and I said, look, you know me and you know that I'm not anxious, but this situation is making me feel anxious and I don't like the way I feel. And he said, oh my God, I had no idea. And he's like, right, so every night before we go to bed, we'll spend 15 minutes just blasting it, getting it done, so that when we come down in the morning, it's like, and that's the day, that's the way you want to start your day. You don't want to start your day feeling like this. You want to just be able to breathe. And there's so many people that are not breathing. And I think a lot of it is because we're not having those granular conversations about, you do this and this is how it makes me feel. And it's not, when it's nagging, it just gets tuned out. But when it's a conversation about feelings, and it's, it's on a level playing field, and saying, I just want to know what the effect of me doing this has on you, then it's a very different situation. So I think I would encourage more of that, to just sit down at a quiet time with no stress and just explain to each other, everybody in the family, kids as well, because clutter affects kids as much as it does adults, if not more. And also the animals. If you've got pets in the house, clutter affects them too. And even though they can't tell you, once the clutter's gone, you notice the differences in their behaviour.
That's so interesting. That even affects our pets. Wow, I hadn't thought about that. And yeah, I think having those conversations before you get to crisis point, before you're overwhelmed and angry and resentful, like you said, and just asking for help, isn't it? I think as busy women, we can be guilty of just taking everything on ourselves and try to think our job is to fix it all, to keep the house tidy. But there's other people that live there, like you say, and actually asking our husbands to share the load, or our partners. And it's good for the kids to learn these skills now. If we can learn them, that we can pass them on and sort of break that cycle, can't we? I was thinking about how when I was younger, I was an only child, and I used to just let my bedroom get really messy. And then when it got so messy, I would have a total like clear out, tidy, clean, feel great. But then thinking about getting into adulthood and motherhood, you don't always have the time for those resets, do you? So that's when you get stuck, you get overwhelmed, because you don't have time to do the big clean and the big reset. So you've got to change your habits in and get on top of it and do smaller things more often, don't you? So that,
and it's being more intentional. And it's basically, what I was saying about, disappointing yourself. Don't leave things on the stairs, because you're the only one that sees them. And it's like, I have a rule now in my own house that I do leave things on the stairs for me to take up, because I know that nobody else will do that. So I don't put them there hoping that somebody else will, because it's not going to happen.
You'll just be disappointed.
And all you're doing at that time is setting yourself up for disappointment. So either don't do it in the first place, or know that if you are doing it, it's up to you to follow through, because nobody else will. And there are so many times where we say, oh, I don't have time for that, I don't have the energy for that, I'll just leave it and do it later. It's literally the worst thing you can do.
There's never later, is there? There's never a time.
There is never a later, no. So it's like, if there is a bit of washing up, just do it now. If there's a bit of tidying, don't say, oh, I'll do it later. Just do it now. And then you get the dopamine hit of having done it now and actually made a difference. And you're saving yourself that disappointment later. And it is just instilling in everybody in the house. And again, it's a family unit thing, that if everybody is more intentional, then that contributes to everybody's well-being, and it does make a massive difference. And nobody's too old for sticker charts, for pocket money, for whatever it may be. Can you do something collectively as a family if everybody upholds their end of the bargain? It's just, stick and carrot. It's worked for centuries. Just keep doing that.
I'll get a sticker chart from my husband. I'll see if that works. Amazing. But I can imagine it's good for marriages and relationships and all sorts, just getting on top of this.
Exactly, because
this basic stuff.
It does. What happens in your home does spill over into relationships and into your work life.
Yeah,
And
especially if you're working
even,
from home.
especially if you work from home, but even if you don't work from home, what we found in our house after we started to be more intentional during lockdown because of the situation, my husband came to me one day and he said, you know what we've been doing at home? He said, I'm now doing it at work, and I've got my to-do list and I'm doing the things that I don't want to do first, because I can see that if I get those out of the way, then I can do the rest of it. And it's great. And so, yeah, your home life over into every other area of your life. And so if there is unhappiness and anxiety, it will spill over everywhere else.
Absolutely. And the goal is to have that home to come back to, isn't it? The home that we want to come back to, that we can rest and relax and recharge. It should be like a sanctuary, shouldn't it, our homes? I think we have realised that more than ever over lockdown, haven't we? That we want our homes to be a place that we want to be. So how then, Rachel, give us the lowdown. If we're feeling a bit in that sort of place of overwhelm, feeling stuck, there's too much stuff around us. We don't know where to start, but we want to get to the goal of having a home we enjoy, where we can rest, where we can breathe, like you were saying, not feel like we're all stuck up in our chests. Where do we start? Yeah.
Well, like you said before, it's very hard to do on your own because you need some accountability. So it's usually finding a friend who is sympathetic, who won't judge you, because that's the thing we all fear, isn't it? Is being judged. And even if they're not there in person, just finding a body double. So somebody who you can just send a message to and say, right, I'm just about to tidy these drawers. Check in with me in half an hour that I've actually done it. And it does help. It helps with most things in life. If you say it out loud, then you kind of have to do it. And just have a clear plan. You just need your 3 piles: the things you're going to keep, the things you're going to throw, and the things you're going to donate. And the things that you're going to donate them immediately. Pick a charity, pick somewhere where you're going to take them, and make sure that they leave the house. The things that you're going to throw, same. If you can't go to the tip, then there are people who will come and collect rubbish, and you can pay them to take it away, but it has to leave the house, because unless it's left the house, you haven't done the work. And the things that you keep, it has to be a definite yes. I get people to pick every item up, and if you look at it and you love it and it's a definite yes, it's a keeper. If there's any kind of hesitation, I would say that's a no. I always liken it to when you used to go to the shop and try clothes on, and you put something on in front of the mirror and you go, yes, love it. And you'll take it home and you'll wear it and wear it and wear it. And if you've stood there in front of the mirror and you've kind of looked, you thought, don't know, is it a bit short? Is it a bit long? Does my bum look big? And then you think, oh, well, I'll buy it. And then you buy it and you never, ever wear it. And it's exactly the same for things in your home. We're not keeping things on an if, might, maybe basis. It's not that. It's am I going to use it? Do I need it? Do I love it? If it's no to any of those things, then bye-bye.
Yeah, that's so good. And do you recommend just sort of working around the home one room by room, or is there a place to start? Should you start with the worst place or the easiest place?
I recommend people start with the bedroom.
Okay.
Just because that is the one place that needs to be a sanctuary. In order to be able to sleep well, we need it to be clear.
Yeah.
And that goes for things under the bed, on top of wardrobes, as I said before. Those are like the definite no-nos. And it should just be clear space. It should be the one place in the house where you can shut the door on the rest of the house and just breathe and just be. So that is definitely my all-time favorite starting point, even if it's just that one room that you get done. But what you find with decluttering is once you've done one room, it gives you the motivation to do more, because you can see the difference and you can feel the difference, and it's everything to do with how you feel. And as much as it is a slog, it's worth just persevering. But I would diarize it also, you know, not just do half an hour when you've got time, because you won't see enough of a difference. I would always diarize like 2 hours, focus on one area, which, you know, obviously if you have got ADHD, that's quite difficult. And that's where the body doubles come in, because you need somebody to just go, when are you doing that? when you've started doing 5 other things.
You start in the bedroom and you're somehow in the downstairs toilet.
Yeah. So yeah, just diarize a time, diarize a room, and diarize a section of that room. And then, making the start is the hardest bit. But once you have made the start and you've felt the impact, then that just encourages you to do more. And it actually motivates you, and it does actually re-energize you. As much as it is a tiring process, and it's emotionally tiring and physically tiring, it does re-energize you, because you're getting rid of the negative emotions and energies, and you're bringing in the positive, and that kind of replacement of energy is energizing.
Yeah, and it's just prioritizing, isn't it? Recognizing, like we've said, the impact it does have on your well-being for good or bad, and making time for that, like you do with, you make time for exercise and cooking healthy food. But this is another part of your well-being that's really important, that affects every other area. And I love the idea of starting with... Sorry, carry on.
If you just think of how much time you spend doom scrolling.
Oh my word, yes.
And if you added up all that time in a week, you know, how much you could get done in your house, then, you know, that's kind of all you need to know, really.
And feel so much better than you would if you spent 2 hours scrolling, for sure. But yeah, I love the idea of starting with your bedroom, because I think as adults and parents especially, that can often be the last area that you tackle, the one that you prioritize the least.
It's always the last one you decorate. It's always, it ends up with all the kids' crap in it. You get all the dirty clothes in it. It's just, it just becomes a dumping ground for everyone else. And that's not right.
No, and actually you're sending a really important message to yourself, that you matter, that you have value, that your well-being matters, that you deserve this place of rest and sanctuary. You'll sleep better, which will then help you have more energy the next day to do all the things we're talking about. So I really love that. I think that's a great tip, and something that we can all take away and do. And it's just like a small thing to start with, but then I can imagine you kind of get the bug as you started. You want to then go on to the next room, the next room. So love that. Love that. Amazing. And so
I've had houses where I've been working with a parent, and you know, we've made their room a sanctuary, and it's more been about the living spaces and the parent space. And then the kids have come along and seen the parent space, and they're like, oh, can we do that with my room? And it's like, yes, because kids pick up on it. I mean, they are so in tune to energies and everything, that they realize that they find it hard to express those feelings. But when they feel it, they know that they like it. And therefore it encourages, because it is learned behavior. And, you know, how can you tell your kid to tidy their room if your room's a mess? And, you know, that's what they're thinking. They're thinking, well, hang on, you're not doing it. Why should I do it?
My children have said that very thing to me, so I agree. Why do we need to tidy our room if your room's a mess? I'm like, just tidy it, because I've told you. But no, I love that.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly. But yeah, I think it's like setting them that example that you are valuing yourself and you deserve to have a nice space. So therefore, so do they. And that's a much better motivation than you telling them just tidy their room, isn't it? Them seeing you doing it and wanting the same for themselves, because they matter as well. That's really lovely. And I see the same thing when I'm coaching women with their eating and nutrition, that it's when they start breaking the cycles, breaking like the diet culture and breaking, you know, the unhealthy eating, that then their kids pick up on it and they want to do the same. And that's a much better way of doing it, isn't it? It's a positive motivation. It's getting rid of all the shame and the guilt, and it's just choosing positive habits that are going to help you feel well, that you can maintain.
Exactly.
Oh, it's beautiful. So if someone's listening and they think, oh, that's all fine and well, I've tried it, I can't do it, I need some professional help. How can we find you, Rachel? You know, tell us where people can come and find you if they need a bit more help than just a text from a friend.
Yep. So I have a website, which is clutteresenemy.co.uk. And I'm also on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn.
Amazing. And you've got all your different services in there. So you do one-to-one decluttering help. You can come to people's home. You can do video calls. You can do a room. You can do a whole house. You can help with
Yeah,
staging. You can help with decorating. So full, full service. Anything you need.
yeah. And the type of interior design I do is empathic interior design. So it's
Mm.
basically going on who you are as a person, what you need from your home to be more you, and what makes you happy. So again, it's that rejection of this Insta society, kind of Insta perfect life, and just looking introspectively at who you are and what makes you happy, which again, it's the questions that we just never ask ourselves.
Yeah, we don't take the time and space. So to have someone like you to
No,
help us create that space to think about it. And I love that. Yeah, let's get rid of all that pressure of comparing ourselves and having to keep up with other people. Let's have homes that are personal to us, that we love, that we want to be in, that we can enjoy. That's the goal, isn't it?
it is to have a home that is a sanctuary and that reflects your journey through life
Mm.
and who you are.
That's so lovely. And I think you're giving us all hope today that we can have that just one step at a time. So I think this has been a great conversation, and a really important part of our well-being is to build those habits that can help us have a home like that. So it's been fantastic to chat about all of these things, Rachel. So thank you. But just for fun, because we do love to bring the conversation back to food as much as we can on
Yeah.
this podcast, love to know what you would choose for your last meal on earth.
So it would definitely be Vietnamese salt and pepper squid,
Mm.
which is like literally one of my favorite things in the world. And then I would have Vietnamese again, because I just think their food is just amazing. We went there on a honeymoon and it was
Oh,
just
wow.
amazing. Vietnamese elephant fish with a papaya salad.
I'm so glad you
Just
said elephant fish. I was like, oh, elephant. That would be quite un-PC, but I'm glad it's a type of fish that I've not heard
I
of.
know it's type of fish. It looks like an elephant ear. That's why they call it an elephant fish.
Wow, I thought you must have been to Vietnam if you'd mentioned those things. They sound amazing. I love that whole
Yeah,
sort of
it
Eastern
is.
cuisine. So,
It's such a clean way of eating,
mm,
and it's everything just tastes so amazing. Just
yeah,
the flavors are just unbelievable.
sounds wonderful. Oh, well, thank you so much for your time, Rachel. Please stay in touch with us both. Let us know what you got from this podcast. Let us know how you get on. Let us know when you've tidied your bedroom and you're loving life. Got this lovely sanctuary to go to. And yeah, keep in touch with us. But thank you so much, Rachel.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Thank you so much for listening today. Remember, you can subscribe and share this episode with someone that you think might find it helpful. I'd love to stay in touch. You can find me over on Instagram at joelivelife.well or at livelifewellness.co.uk, where you can find all the details of my coaching courses, workshops, and retreats. Remember to keep looking after you, because you are precious and worthy of feeling amazing.